In the sun-soaked, colorful land of Cuba, where salsa music fills the streets and the aroma of cigars wafts through the air, a larger-than-life figure emerged. He was Fidel Castro, a man who would leave an indelible mark on Cuba's history and become one of the most iconic revolutionaries of the 20th century. Picture this, it's August 13, 1926, a day like any other in the little town of Buran, Cuba. But this day is special because it marks the birth of a future revolutionary. Fidel Alejandro Castro Ruz was born into a well-off farming family. Little did anyone know that this child would grow up to be a charismatic leader who would challenge the status quo. As a young man, Fidel was pretty typical. He loved sports, had a mischievous streak, and was known for his rebellious spirit. But what set him apart was his insatiable curiosity about the world, especially its politics. Fast forward to the 1950s, and Cuba had a problem, a big one. A dictator named Fulgencio Batista was calling all the shots, and it wasn't in a good way. Batista's rule was marked by corruption, oppression, and stark social inequality. Fidel thought, this isn't cool at all. So, in 1953, he decided to take matters into his own hands. Along with a group of rebels, Fidel orchestrated an audacious attack on the Moncada barracks in Santiago de Cuba. The goal? To spark a revolution and overthrow Batista. But here's the twist, it didn't quite go as planned. Most of the rebels were captured or killed. Fidel himself ended up in court defending his actions. He delivered a fiery speech that electrified the courtroom, declaring that he may be sentenced to death, but his ideas would live on. The court was so moved that they gave him a lighter sentence, 15 years in prison. Now, here's where the story takes an intriguing turn. Fidel's time in prison wasn't idle. He was a voracious reader, and he used this period to expand his knowledge about revolution, politics, and ideology. It was like he was in revolutionary boot camp preparing for a mission that would change Cuba forever. But Fidel didn't spend his life behind bars. He was released in 1955, and he hadn't given up on his revolutionary dreams. He went to Mexico, where he met another fervent revolutionary, Che Guevara. Together, they hatched a daring plan. In 1956, they, along with 80 other rebels, set sail back to Cuba on a rickety yacht named the Granma. Imagine this scene, a motley crew of rebels, including Fidel and Che, landing in Cuba to take on Batista's forces. It was the start of a grueling guerrilla war, a battle against all odds. But Fidel was unyielding in his determination. He had a vision of a more just and equal Cuba, and he was ready to fight for it. Fast forward to January 1, 1959, Fidel and his rebels did the unthinkable. They overthrew Batista's regime. It was a historic moment, and Fidel was now in charge. He wasted no time in making sweeping changes. He aimed to reduce the gaping chasm between the rich and the poor, improve education and healthcare, and create a more egalitarian society. But there was a twist in the international tale. Cuba was now smack in the middle of the Cold War, with the United States and the Soviet Union jockeying for influence. Fidel's alignment with the Soviets ruffled some feathers in Washington, and tensions escalated. The U.S. imposed a trade embargo on Cuba, which further complicated life for the island nation. But Fidel wasn't one to back down. He held on to power for decades, surviving countless assassination attempts, political turmoil, and global pressure. He was a complex figure, revered by some for his revolutionary zeal and reviled by others for his authoritarian rule. Here's where it gets interesting. Fidel Castro finally stepped down as Cuba's leader in 2008. He handed the reins to his brother, Raul Castro, as health issues took their toll. Fidel lived the rest of his life in relative obscurity, far from the limelight that had once shone on him so brightly. Fidel Castro's larger-than-life journey came to an end on November 25, 2016, when he passed away. But his legacy lives on. He's remembered as a man who started as a rebel, became a revolutionary leader, and left an indelible mark on the history of Cuba. So, when you think of Fidel Castro, think of a man who started a rebellion, led a revolution, and created a legacy. It's a story of passion, politics, and perseverance in the face of extraordinary odds.